Ari, I hear you all ask the question, what's the frequency, Kenneth? And today the frequency is DC Comics Presents number 28. We have some classic Superman shenanigans here. Superman teaming up with Supergirl to fight Mongoloids. This is by Jim Starman, and it is the second part of the first ever story with Mongoloids. Really fun and exciting stuff from 1980. This is picking up straight from the first part, but with Supergirl now in tow. The two super cousins here, they have gone off into space in search of the naughty meatball called Mongoloids. We have some backstory here, recapping the previous issue, which I have reviewed. It was the first appearance of Mongoloids. He kidnapped Superman's friends and got Superman to fight the Vision, and there was a MacGuffin that Mongoloid wanted for himself. Any comparison one can draw between Jim Starman's Mongoloid and Jim Starman's Thanos should be fatally obvious. My pick for line of the issue, which is a feature I do in every video, it is when Superman says down here, it is better to be safe than slaughtered. This issue also has a first appearance, one of less note than the previous issue, but we have the first appearance of War-World. I didn't think we saw it last issue. Mongoloid just had a weird battleship that looked out of scale, like it came from a different toy line. War-World is an artificial planet, a satellite, a doomsday weapon, and any similarity one could draw between Jim Starman's War-World and Star Wars' Death Star should be lethally apparent. This has plenty of those classic Jim Starmanisms, though, artistically I mean, slightly more thought out or intentionally unique panels and panel layouts. And down here we see a gravestone, and at first I thought this was Captain Marvel's grave, the real one, Mar-Vell. That was my gut reaction. This is exactly like how his grave looked. The design, well, the basic design, it's the same. When I realised that, combined with the Thanos comparisons, I did sigh and lose a bit of respect for this. And then I realised this is 2 years before the death of Captain Marvel's, the real one, Mar-Vell. So instead, this isn't a nod, it isn't a reference, it's just a weird plot beat that comes into play a bit nonsensically later on and showcases that Jim Starman can't really design more than one grave. I wanted to call it Chekhov's grave, but it does come back, so this grave is a disappointment in every possible way. One thing that I do like is that Mongoloid is just plain evil. He is a conqueror and a warlord. He wants to enslave the whole universe. And we get Mongoloid's backstory, which doesn't for a second imbue him with any personality traits besides that of an evil tyrant. I do like his simple motivation of just being a bad guy. But I thought it was a bit much to tie his story in with Wonder Woman and Hostess Cupcakes. I think the character of Mongoloid, he was fine without this insertion. So right now, we see Superman and Supergirl being attacked by Warworld. Mongoloid is trying to kill them with his enormous satellite of 8. The sister satellite to the one Lou Reed sang about. If I had one beef with this story, it is that due to it being a team-up series, DC Comics Presents was basically Superman team-up. But due to that, the guest star of last issue just vanishes from the story. And truth be told, the Vision had reason to pursue Mongoloid with Superman. You often see this in team-up books though, an ongoing story where the characters just vanish after an issue. This is a fun story though, and a decent run. I have slammed some DC comics from this period for being samey and basically 2 decades too late. But there are little runs or titles like this that were actually moving beyond the Silver Age style and framework. This definitely feels like it is moving forward in ways that the other Superman titles were not. We have an ongoing story with stakes and endings that are not abrupt, clear-cut victories. If you have not read this run, I do recommend it. It starts off easy to follow, but then it effectively becomes random issues. Now that I did cutaways, it is easier to list a run. So this is that run here. This is all you've got to read. Only 7 comics. It would be perfect for a small trade paperback collection, but it hasn't been done. There is a trade that is almost this. Superman versus Mongoloid. This has... it has most of it. It has the core story. And it also includes the Superman Annual, which is the only other major appearance of Mongoloid before the Christmas on Infinite Earths Superman reboot. This would be acceptable, but it misses out on issue 29, which is great, and a direct continuation from this issue. Issue 26, which I have not read. It is impossible to buy a copy of it, as it contains a free preview of Tiny Titans that has the first appearances of Star Fox, Sideburns, and Goth Girl. Issue 26 is also not included, and neither is issue 37, as they didn't really deal with Mongoloid. Issue 29 is the loss here, but there is an alternative, and that is a hardcover called The DC Universe by Lenny Wein. This doesn't have the entire thing either, but it does have issues 27, 28, and 29. In fact, as you can see, issue 29 is the front cover for the collection. Before I get back to the issue, here is a last look at the comics. You can skip 26 because up to this point I have always. But it is a nice compact run with some actual ideas and momentum. The Superman annual I have listed as a bonus is something I will review. It is a classic beloved Superman story by Alvin Moore. Speaking of reviews, I have actually reviewed issue 29, but it was one of the first reviews I ever did, so it is probably shit, and there will be background noises, and pauses, and loads of ums and ahs. And I'm meant to be a shit YouTuber who doesn't know any of the names of the characters, but I really have come a long way from my beginnings. Although my enunciation improved, I think it went too far with k sounds. That still annoys us. This issue lets us see Superman and Supergirl gang up against the enormous arsenal of a Death Star, and it's loads of fun. We didn't get to see them smack Mongoloid around, but we do get to see Supergirl break the speed barrier, and as a result, she vanishes. That is the cliffhanger ending, the disappearance of Supergirl. I think you get more than enough action with them facing a big death machine. It is a good story. Less engaging is the backup story. DC Comics Presents did backup stories around these times, which were interesting occasionally, and they were doing whatever happened to so-and-so. This time it is Johnny Thunders, not that one, and not that one, the other one, the Western vigilante character. These were nice if you cared about the long absent characters they were covering. There was a bunch about members of the Justice Society of Superheroes, but they do live or die by how much you care about the character they are spotlighting. So, I like this issue, and something dawned on me towards the end. Jim Starman is far better known for his Marvel work, but over at DC in the 80s, he had this neat little stint on Superman, and then he had a really good run on Batman with Jim Apparatus. I like his Batman run because at no point does he get to write Thanius or a funniest proxy like mongoloids. I'll give this comic 7 thumbs up.